What is the Merriam-Webster word of the year? I'll let you know a hint. It has to do with one of the very first episodes of this podcast. Hello, I'm Chuck. I'm an educator with 16 years of experience in the math classroom, plus a little potpourri of some others. And I'm an educator with a new job and a new podcast this year, trying to figure out what to do with all this extra time in the car. And thanks for driving along on today's drive. So I just heard on the radio this morning that the Merriam-Webster word of the year is authentic. Which, as I heard that this morning, I was just excited to know that, because one of the very first episodes I made of this podcast, as I was getting ready to embark on my new school year at my new school, was reflecting on the idea of authentic self. During our orientation, our new staff orientation, we had several conversations about the value that my district places on students being able to be authentic in the space and being themselves and bringing themselves to the learning, whatever that looks like, and also teachers being able to do the same. Our board actually had our superintendent actually just talked about this with a student on a student podcast that I will link in the show notes. And so she just reminded me of this. Our school board adopted an academic freedom resolution, I think just last year, that is about, it was targeted toward targeted toward being proactive about attacks maybe about CRT that community members might have, critical race theory, or attacks that community members might have about books that teachers are teaching with, whether they be books with a focus on diversity or equity or inclusion, books for diverse voices, inclusive voices, those kind of things, or the way in which they teach history. History teachers are often attacked as CRT teachers if they are using some of the New York Times 1619 resources, I think that's called. So our school board has this academic freedom resolution, I think is what it's called, with the idea that they valued in our ecosystem teachers being able to use their expertise and their values into the classroom in the way that they see fit. And so we talked a lot about bringing authentic self, and in the authentic self episode I reflected on what that might look like, and I was wondering of what I might run into bringing myself to our school ecosystem. I wondered about just different places where student family values might not totally match up with the ones that I bring personally. And I was wondering what might happen if, eventually, I haven't seen this play out at all. Definitely not in my classroom. I don't know if it's played out in anybody else's classroom this year, but at some point, there are differences in opinion, right? And so I was wondering in that earlier episode also, I think it's episode 2 is what it's officially listed as. I was wondering, in those differences of opinion, whose authentic self is going to win out. So I still don't really totally know that. I could make a guess that might be wrong, and so I don't even want to really say that right now. Without speaking for my administration or whatever. So that's a question I need to follow up on, I guess. But authenticity is super important for me, and so I was really geeked out about that being the word of the year, because the idea of being able to bring your authentic self into any space, or being authentic and being real, is something that I value, because I seek integrity or wholeness in all the parts of my life, and so the way that I want to be known by my students is the same way that I pretty much want to be known by my family, and that I want to be known by my friends, that I want to be known by people at my church, in the community, people I used to know that I went to high school with, people that I used to know that I went to college with, all those things. I seek to be authentic and real in all of those spaces. And I think also some people cringe at the idea of authentic, and the fact that that's the word of the year, and that we have to have so many conversations about authenticity. But the idea that in any space someone would have to assimilate in a way that made them seem completely different than people who really know them, the fact that in spaces that we have in our society that happens, that's a bummer, because when we are all able to be ourselves, that's, when we're the most comfortable, that's when we're going to thrive the most. And so I know personally, probably looking at my privilege as a educated white male, all those able-bodied, cisgender, all those things. As I think about those, there's really probably not that many situations that I go into where I can't be my authentic self. But even when I do feel or experience that, it feels uncomfortable. It's not places where I feel most excited to be there. It's not places where, if it's an environment where I have to learn, I don't feel like I learn the most there. If it's an environment where I am doing, I don't feel like I do the best there. And so thinking about, there's other spaces where individuals go that they feel like, whether this is true or not, that's their perception, that they have to be inauthentic most of the time. And that's a toxic environment. So this podcast is going to go on record right now as being in favor of authenticity, because I am in favor of people blooming and blossoming and being their healthiest, best version of themselves, because that makes every organization better. So authenticity is my word of the year also, and so I'm glad that's the word of the year for Merriam-Webster as well. Rules of the podcast, on this Drive Time Diary, is that it gets recorded in the car, and I am now at home sitting in my driveway. So that's the end of this drive, and thanks for driving along shotgun on this one. Let me know what you think about authenticity or authentic. Are you leaning into that still? Or are you tired of hearing it? Are you done with it? Send me a voice message here on Spotify. Hit me at the X at Chuck C. Baker, or on Instagrams, always at Mr. C. Baker for Math, or at Drive Time Diary. Or, as always, if I know you or see you in IRL, go ahead and send me a text, or see me face to face. And for this drive, that's it. We'll see you on the next drive. Be safe.